Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of today's guests, including Jim Hughes, father of Quinn, Jack, and Luke, standing by. Brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. Christmas in the air at the Bayside this holiday season, which means there are deals to be had. When staying now until February 29th, when you stay a minimum of 2 nights, the Bayside wants to give you 25% off their best rate, and that includes weekends. Must call and book directly through the hotel. From everyone at the Bayside, they wish you and your loved ones a joyful holiday season. Call 250-248-8333 to book today. What a story. Jim Hughes is going to join us now. Father of Quinn, Luke, and Jack Hughes, all three on the ice tonight at Rogers Arena. Canucks against the Devils. Quinn versus Jack and Luke. And Jim joins us now. He's going to be in attendance tonight along with his wife, Ellen. Jim, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Hi, guys. Good morning.
Is this the first time you've watched all three on NHL ice together at the same time?
Well, that's an easy question.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be an interesting night. Probably a lot of emotions for Ellen and I in terms of it's an important game for both teams. New Jersey needs to start off a Western trip and on the right foot, and Vancouver wants to keep climbing. So, we're wishful and hopeful that everybody participates in a productive manner, and in a perfect world, I guess the game would go into overtime.
What team gear will you be wearing, if any?
I got to go neutral. My wife might have some sort of maybe a scarf on with both teams, but I'm probably going to just go neutral and hope for the best.
Jim, is it possible to
we'll see how it goes.
Is it possible to put into words the amount of pride you feel?
Well, we're proud of the kids, of course, and they're blessed. I mean, listen, but it's so hard to get to that league, and the guys that get to that league, they've done it because of the hard work, the dedication, the commitment. There's so much that you have to deal with from 10 to 11 to 12 to 16, 17, 18, 19. And you've just got to keep pushing yourself up the mountain. You've got to keep getting better. You got to keep loving the sport. And so, the kids have just, they kept loving the sport, and it's in their heart and in their soul. And so now we get an opportunity to see them, in a game together, and it should be a ton of fun.
Jim, when was the first time you said, holy smokes, I think all three are going to be exceptional hockey players?
You don't really know. I mean, as Ellen said yesterday, we were just hoping that Quinn and Luke would play in college hockey someday coming out of Toronto. We kind of had an inkling that Jack might be a little bit different. So we always kept things in perspective. I don't think when Quinn and Luke were at the program after their U17 year, I don't think anybody knew. I mean, Luke grew about 6 inches in 1 year. And so maybe around when Quinn was at Michigan after his first year, I think people started to think that he could be an elite NHL player. And I think likewise for Luke, right around maybe freshman year at Michigan, Luke did some special things there. And then I think you could see that, wow, these guys might be able to play. But this notion to think that kids at 14 and 12 and 13 years old are going to be able to play, there's a lot of moving parts. Moving through your teenage years into your early 20s. So we talk about sustainability and, balance in your life. There's so many things away from the game that are important, self-esteem and confidence. And so there's a lot of mental things that go into it, maybe more so than the physical. And so, we spend a lot of time talking to kids about not stifling themselves or the growth stops because the mind stops working. And so we just try to help as many kids along the way as we move along the trail here.
Jim, I got to ask you about Quinn, named captain in Vancouver. He just gets better every year. He's one of the high-scoring players in the league as a defenseman. What is it about this kid? When he goes home in the summers, he comes back better. That mentality to always get better is in this kid big time.
Yeah, it's got to come from inside your heart. And so he's always looking to figure out ways to improve and expand his game, add layers to your game. He's constantly watching video and clips, like so many other players in the league. I mean, there's so many elite players. They're all doing the same thing. But in Quinn's case, he's got a plan in the summer, and he's got a program that he has in place, and it's both, strength and conditioning, and then it's shooting the puck, and it's movements, and trying to figure out how to exploit his opponents. We have a really wonderful group in the summer with Dylan Larkin and Kyle Connor and Hellebuck and Kopp and Mott and Jack Quinn and Luke and Cole Caulfield, Berniers, Brandon Brisson, Alex Turcotte. We have a really special group. So you put these guys on the ice, and they really just make each other better. It's just it's an environment and a culture that you drop the puck, you blow a whistle, and it's one guy making the next guy better, and then it's 2 against 2, and it's 3 against 3, and it's just a whole lot of guys with a whole lot of passion, and so that's where you see Kyle Connor come out, and that it's not surprising when you see the kind of season he's having, or Dylan Larkin, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's just a mindset that they take in the summer, and they carry it over to to game 1 of the NHL schedule.
And for people who don't know, Jim, both you and your wife Ellen played high-level hockey. You're a coach. You've coached among other teams in the Leafs organization, the Bruins organization, with the Manchester Monarchs as well. You mentioned what happens in the summer. You're on the ice with your sons and other NHL players. Does this happen? Do the Hughes brothers make it to the NHL without their dad being a coach, being so well-versed in the game of hockey?
I think so, because there's so many other parents that have kids in the NHL that might not have that kind of background, or they have different kinds of jobs and they make a living in a different way, but they get there. I think a lot of it is parenting and how you message to your kids. And when you have ultra competitive kids, sometimes you got to bring the temperature down in conversations. They're so competitive, and you can't, as I said to the folks in Toronto a few months ago, you can't throw gasoline on the fire. You got to have an intelligent conversation with young kids and find solutions to problems. And so there's so much navigating that takes place in terms of finding the good in the game and figuring out how to problem solve. And so, I think there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, and we had our own method, and it was an everyday method. It wasn't like, hey, it's day to day, week to week, and month to month. And it's really where these kids try to figure out how to make themselves better every day.
You said something there, Jim. Did competition amongst the three of them, brotherly competition, did that help?
The kids knew on December 1 what rinks were open, the tennis courts, the municipalities in Toronto. They knew those rinks. They knew what day they were open. And so the three of them would go out amongst all of their friends, and they would play for hours for the love of the game. They'd play it in the day, they would play at night under the stars and moon. And that's where their skills, maybe their love for their game grew, their passion. But certainly the three of them pushed each other. Jack pushed Quinn, and Quinn pushed Jack. Jack's a good role model. Quinn's a good role model to his brothers. And then obviously Luke was just observing and watching all this along the while. And so there's no doubt, from the basements to the outdoor rinks to the car rides, watching games at night. I mean, Quinn and I took the two boys back to the hotel last night, and I just sat and listened, and Quinn was just giving little tips and little things, information and things of how to expand this game and what he's doing well and what he needs to keep doing. And that conversation took place last night at 10 o'clock. So there's always learning that's going on, and I think quite frankly they teach each other.
He wasn't giving the Canucks game plan to him, was he, by any chance, Jim?
No, we listen. Again, we're talking about highly competitive people, and so this is a very it's just another game, but it's an important game, and both teams need points in the standings. So, it's probably not an easy game for these guys to play because they have their own intent and they're wishful, and they hope that their brothers do well too.
We could go on and on. Hey, well, one more before we go. Jim, you touched on this as well. Your message to minor hockey parents out there.
My message to minor hockey parents would be the value of hard work. Skill alone doesn't do it. God-given ability doesn't do it. It's putting intelligent work in. It's the value of hard work, because if you have that built in, your skating will improve, your shooting will improve, your passing will improve. Everything will improve inside your game if you value the hard work. And so I would say that's probably it's one of the driving forces, no question.
Again, Jim, we could go on and on. This has been just outstanding. If it's possible not to get too nervous tonight, have yourself a great time. I can't imagine what you and your wife will be going through tonight. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.